Hey guys, got a bit of a story for you, all about life's unexpected twists and turns. My wife and I tied the knot when we were 25, right after college. We've been living the dream, good jobs, great life, no money worries. I landed a sweet gig at a big company and my wife worked for her dad's business. Things took a turn when I was 28 and got a huge promotion. Suddenly, I was earning way more. That same year, we welcomed our first daughter, and our second followed 2 years later. Life was hectic but good. However, about 5 years ago, my father-in-law passed away, leaving my wife and her mom with a tough decision about the family business. My wife stepped up and took charge. She was amazing at it, and her salary eventually surpassed mine. Our daughters started feeling the pinch of our busy schedules, so my wife and I had a heart-to-heart. She pointed out that her company needed her more than mine needed me. I agreed and decided to be a stay-at-home dad. I've been handling everything at home, kids, chores, you name it, while my wife runs her company. But here's the twist, about a year ago, my wife's attitude changed. She started making snide remarks like, "Do you do anything?" or "How about you work for real?" It's confusing and hurtful because I'm working non-stop at home. Not sure what to make of this shift. What do you guys think? Ever been in a situation like this? I used to have a regular job, but I quit so I could take care of our daughters, our home, and you. Plus, my wife has a high sex drive, but she stopped initiating intimacy, and when I asked, she wasn't interested. It seemed strange, but I thought maybe the stress from the pandemic and other things was affecting her. I started making more effort to make her happy, but nothing seemed to work. Last weekend, our oldest daughter had a softball game. I wanted to record it for my parents, who live far away and don't see our kids often. I forgot my phone, so I asked my wife if I could use hers. She had been using it all day, so I thought it would be a good chance for her to take a break. She gave me her phone and said she was going to get a drink and a snack. As I was recording our daughter, a message popped up on one of her apps. I checked it, and what I saw was shocking. My wife was exchanging explicit messages, videos, and pictures with a guy from her work who is 8 years younger than me. I read recent messages where they talked about their encounters and belittled me. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I felt devastated and angry. I heard my wife coming back, so I quickly closed the app and resumed recording the game. On the way home, and when we got back, my wife tried to talk to me, but I wasn't in the mood. Eventually, we lay in bed together, and she attempted to be intimate for the first time in a while. I told her I wasn't in the mood, and she responded by saying, "If you're going to complain about everything, you can sleep on the couch." I didn't say anything and went to sleep on the couch, where I've been since. I don't know how to move forward from this. My wife meant everything to me, and my daughters are my world, but it feels like everything is falling apart. I could really use some advice if anyone has any to offer. Update. Firstly, I want you to know that I have all the text messages, pictures, videos, and other evidence. Secondly, I don't own any part of the company. It's a 50-50 partnership between my wife and my mother-in-law. Thirdly, I can't sleep in our bed anymore. I've been staying in the guest bedroom every night, and that's where I'll continue to stay. To be clear, I've made the decision to get a divorce. This morning, I contacted a law firm in a different town to keep things discreet. Fortunately, they were able to see me on short notice because someone cancelled. After dropping off my daughters, I drove over there. To keep it brief, the lawyer I met with is very skilled. I showed him all the evidence I have, and he said that with what I have, she will have a tough time in the divorce. Considering that I quit my job to take care of our daughters, she's hardly ever home, she's having an affair, and she prioritizes this other man over me and our daughters, she's in a weak position. He basically said we can secure child support, alimony, I can keep the house, and she'll have to contribute as long as my daughters live there. Furthermore, he mentioned that we might even aim for more financial support since I'm now considered not employable in the working world, which will help me cover the cost of further education to find a job. Some of you were correct. He advised me not to seek employment until after the divorce is finalized, as being the husband getting a job could jeopardize these potential benefits. He asked if I wanted full custody. I replied that I don't mind if my wife has occasional weekend visits with her daughters, but I prefer to have primary custody. He explained that since she had an affair in our marital home, I have a strong case. Bringing a stranger into the house put our daughters in danger and makes her legally culpable. Therefore, I'll be seeking full custody, with her having weekends once, maybe twice a month. I will make it clear that no man will be allowed around my daughters, and if this happens, she could face legal consequences if I find out. I simply don't want that person around my daughters. My lawyer advised me to remain quiet until the legal paperwork is ready, and then he will arrange for someone to serve her with the divorce papers. We'll also have it stipulated that she must leave our home. He estimates this will be ready sometime next week. The attorney suggested I undergo an STD test and also recommended a DNA test for both my daughters. When I inquired why, he explained it's pretty uncommon for incidents like this to be the first time they've occurred. So yeah, hearing that was painful and extremely worrisome. He urged me once more to remain silent. He acknowledged that it's tough and that I'm upset, but he emphasized, just keep your mouth shut until everything is settled. After the divorce, you can speak your mind about her once it's all over. He advised me to behave normally, no arguments, no problems, sleep in separate beds, and refrain from initiating intimacy. I agreed and asked him for the reason. He simply said, trust me, don't do it and follow my advice. I've just returned home and started preparing for dinner, acting as if everything is normal. Update. First, let's talk about the tests. I had an STD test for myself and a paternity test for my daughters. Fortunately, I tested negative for any diseases, which wasn't surprising given my lack of sexual activity over the past year. Now, over the one that many of you are probably wondering about, the paternity test for my two daughters. Regardless of the results, I had already decided that I would always consider myself their father. However, I'm pleased to announce that I am indeed their biological father. I've never been happier to have that confirmation. I never thought I'd have to question it, but here we are. Regarding my cheating wife situation, she's no longer in the house, and I've been granted full temporary custody. I'll share more specific details in the future, but for now, she's out of the house. My lawyer handled everything legally to ensure her removal from our home. It wasn't a pleasant process, but I'll save the details for another time. She was served with the divorce papers at her workplace, and from what I've heard, it didn't go smoothly. Again, more details will come later. My daughters are aware of what's happening. My oldest understands that we are separating, and one of her friend's parents went through a similar situation. She doesn't want us to split and has been crying, asking me to let mommy come home. I'm planning to arrange for them to see a child therapist to explain and help them understand, as recommended by my lawyer. My youngest simply misses her mom and wants her to come home. It pains me and makes me feel like I'm failing as a father, and I worry that my daughters may now resent me. I must confess that I've considered allowing their mother to cheat on me just to keep my girls happy and maintain a family unit, but of course, I can't go down that path. Sometimes I've thought about the idea of having an open relationship and waiting until the girls are older, but that doesn't sit well with me. Moreover, I'm concerned that the girls would pick up on it and be unhappy that mommy and daddy no longer love each other. Regarding my ex-wife, still legally my wife, she's currently living with her mother. My mother-in-law has reached out to me and asked to meet. I agreed, and we will arrange a meeting at some point. She didn't inquire about the specifics, saying we would discuss that later, but she pleaded with me not to keep her granddaughters away from her. I assured her, you're a wonderful and loving grandmother, and as long as you can shield my girls from what's happening between your daughter and me, I see no problem with you remaining a part of their lives. I won't cut off their relationship with you. She expressed her gratitude, and that was the end of our conversation. My ex has been attempting to call and text me in an attempt to figure things out. Under the guidance of my lawyer, we've established a trackable method for communication that solely focuses on the girls, nothing more, nothing less. So for now, that's the situation. Update. Firstly, I spent Thanksgiving with my wife and mother-in-law. From now on, I'll simply refer to my soon-to-be ex-wife as my wife since she's still legally my spouse. I made sure that this Thanksgiving gathering was solely for the benefit of our daughters and not an attempt at reconciliation. My lawyer ensured that before Thanksgiving, I had a meeting with my mother-in-law. We had a rather amicable discussion, mainly focused on how we'll handle things concerning my daughters after the divorce. During our conversation, my mother-in-law shared some details about my wife's past. Apparently, my wife was cheated on by her high school boyfriend, which I didn't even know about since I didn't think she dated anyone during that time. According to my mother-in-law, this boyfriend came from a troubled family and they advised her to steer clear of him. One night, she caught him being intimate with another girl, and I'm sure you can guess what they were doing. It was exactly as you might imagine. In college, she had a couple of boyfriends, but she always knew those relationships wouldn't last. She mentioned that as soon as she met me, she saw me as the son-in-law she'd been waiting for. She expressed her apologies for her daughter's actions and assured me she'd prevent any problematic behavior during the divorce. Prior to Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law invited me and the girls for dinner. I agreed only on the condition that my wife wouldn't attend. Understanding my stance, she asked if we could come together as a family one last time for the girls. I consulted my lawyer, who agreed, provided I made it clear to my wife that the gathering was just for the girls. I communicated this through an app, as advised. My wife had already expressed a wish to see me and the girls, and they too wanted to see their mom, so I agreed for their sake. The gathering turned out to be quite uncomfortable. My wife hugged our daughters, which was fine, but she also tried to hug and kiss me. I avoided her, instead greeting my mother-in-law with a hug. My wife followed, acting as if we were still together, trying to engage me in conversation. I kept my responses brief while helping with the table. During a prayer led by my religious mother-in-law, my wife sat next to me. I held my daughter's hand, but when my wife attempted to hold mine, I pulled away. I didn't want her touch, even if it seemed harsh. As an atheist, I still participated in the prayer out of respect for my mother-in-law. Dinner went smoothly. Once again, my wife tried to act like we were still married, asking about Christmas and vacations as if she wanted to join us as a family. When she brought up these topics, I realized that going over for dinner was a mistake. After we finished eating, I got up, took care of my daughters, did the dishes, and was ready to leave. My daughters wanted to watch a movie with their mother, one we used to watch together often. I granted them permission and joined them on the couch. However, my wife moved closer to me and tried to cuddle up. Seriously. At her touch, I stood up and took a seat in a nearby chair. Throughout the evening, I sensed that my mother-in-law was becoming upset with my wife. I noticed it during dinner and every time my wife crossed boundaries, which seemed to happen all night. I could tell by the disapproving looks my mother-in-law gave her. When the movie ended, we began to leave. Both of my daughters had fallen asleep, so I carried them to the car. I went back into the house to retrieve something, and when I stood in the hallway, my wife grabbed my arms, tears in her eyes, and begged, "Please take me back. We can work through this. I want to be a family and I need to be with my family. I'm so sorry for what happened." Before I had a chance to say anything, my mother-in-law grabbed my wife by her hair, I'm not kidding, pulled her back, said goodnight to me, and immediately began yelling at her daughter. So yeah, that happened. Afterward, I called my lawyer and shared all the details to ensure I hadn't done anything wrong on my part. He assured me that nothing suggested reconciliation, and I had made that clear in our previous messages, so I'm in the clear. In the days following Thanksgiving, it hasn't been quiet at all. My wife called me up, and while I thought she wanted to discuss the girls, she started pleading for us to work things out. I hang up every time the conversation isn't about the girls, and I leave her messages unread. I've made it clear that I'll only discuss matters related to our daughters. However, I'm concerned they might want us to spend Christmas together and repeat the whole Thanksgiving ordeal. I don't want to, but they could persuade my daughters to ask. I'll discuss it with my lawyer, but I already know what I want. **update***. My daughter's therapy sessions this week brought some tough moments. The therapist told them in a way they could understand about their mom's affair and our separation. I knew they'd find out eventually, but it was sooner than expected. After the session, my girls were in tears, hugging me and saying they love me. I love them too, but I wish they didn't have to go through this. I asked the therapist why she told them. She said they knew about the separation and sensed my coldness towards their mom. They needed to understand why. The therapist believes they can't progress without knowing the truth, though she kept it age-appropriate. Now they know a version of the story suitable for their age. That night, they clung to me, crying. We ordered food, watched their favorite movies, and stayed in my room. I couldn't cry in front of them, but later I broke down in the bathroom. Their pain is so deep, and it seems like their mom doesn't get it. I'm struggling with what to do next. The therapist suggested medication to help them adjust, but I'm not for it. They need to process their feelings healthily. For Christmas, it looks like my girls have turned against their mom. My oldest said she never wants to see her again, and the youngest usually follows her lead. I was shocked but told her that her mom loves her. She just cried and said, "No, she doesn't," then fell asleep in my arms, her sister too. That's the tough reality we are facing. Update to update. My daughters are doing much better now. My wife knows how they feel and is respecting our boundaries. It seems like she's starting to understand the impact of her actions. Now, about the affair partner. I already had a low opinion of him, but this man has proven to be truly terrible. Someone in the comments asked if there was a betrayed spouse on his side. I didn't have that information back then, but I do now. I looked through some of my wife's work documents and found a piece of paper with all the employees' numbers and emergency contacts. I decided to call his emergency contact, which turned out to be his wife's number. As it turns out, he is indeed married, something I didn't know previously. Additionally, he has a toddler. I informed his wife about everything, but she initially didn't believe me and hung up. However, she later called me back and requested a meeting. So we met, and I showed her all the evidence. She asked if we could talk in my car, and we did. As soon as the car door closed, she burst into tears, expressing her anguish and asking what she had done wrong. I reassured her that she hadn't done anything wrong and gave her my lawyer's contact information. Following that, she inquired about the duration of the affair, and I estimated it to be around a year, maybe a bit longer. Her emotional state shifted from distress to intense anger. I could see that it had a profound impact on her, so I asked why she was so upset. She proceeded to remove her wig, revealing that she had just overcome cancer. Apparently, they had noticed some unusual signs during her hospital stay after giving birth to their child. Subsequent tests revealed a tumor. Over the past year and a half, she had undergone 2 surgeries, endured chemotherapy, and relied on medication to combat her illness. Despite her challenging journey, she looked remarkably healthy, which surprised me. She mentioned that they hadn't been intimate for about 2 years between her pregnancy and battling cancer. She couldn't engage in such activities. She had faced severe health issues during her pregnancy and nearly lost her life due to cancer. Once she started to recover, she struggled with her self-image. The medication caused her to gain weight, she lost her hair, and she didn't feel as attractive as she used to be. She mentioned, "I had reached a point where I could have intimacy and was planning to surprise my husband soon as a way to show my love and care. But now, that's no longer an option." She became emotional, expressing concern about her child growing up in a broken home, and I comforted her. Unexpectedly, she then made advances towards me, but I declined, explaining, "You're not in the right state of mind, and this wouldn't be healthy." She respected my decision, apologized, and appreciated my honesty. Afterward, she asked for the evidence, which I provided before she went home. We've exchanged a few texts since. We both find ourselves as the betrayed spouses. We'll stay in touch and support each other through this process. I want to express my gratitude to those who suggested seeking out the other betrayed spouse. It didn't even cross my mind. Update. Hello, everyone. I've already been asked about spending Christmas with the other betrayed spouse, and the answer is yes, we did. And it was quite lovely, honestly. It turned out to be a wonderful day, all things considered. I arranged all the girls' presents from Santa. This might be the last year my oldest believes in Santa. So I wanted to make it special. I set out the gifts early while it was still dark outside, and within 15 minutes, the girls woke up excited that Santa had visited. I dragged myself out of bed, and the girls eagerly unwrapped their presents, bringing them a lot of joy. Afterward, we settled in to watch a movie, and the girls cuddled up next to me, falling asleep almost instantly. I eventually got up and made some coffee. My youngest woke up and declared, "I'm hungry, Daddy." So I put an apron on her and let her assist me in making breakfast. My oldest soon joined us and we had a meal together. They played with their new gifts and had a great time. It warmed my heart to see them so happy. Later in the evening, I needed them to get ready to visit their mother and grandmother. Normally, I'm pretty strict about being punctual, but given everything that's been happening, I'll admit I've been more lenient. As they got ready, they expressed their reluctance to go see their mom. I reminded them that their mom loves them. My therapist advised me to encourage their relationship with their mother for their healthy development. She also warned that if I don't, my wife could use it against me in court as isolation. She explained that the girls should have the choice to rebuild their relationship with their mother as they get older. Additionally, my wife is aware of the therapist and they have had discussions. The therapist conveyed to my wife that she had betrayed her husband and that it's evident the girls prefer being with their father. She emphasized that my wife would need to demonstrate a lot of positive change for the girls to eventually trust and love her again. Just before the girls left, I reminded them not to blame their grandma for their mother's actions and encouraged them to spend time with their grandmother. They agreed. I took the girls and it went pretty smoothly. I arrived and called my mother-in-law, who came out to collect the girls' sleepover belongings as they were staying the night for Christmas. She had asked for permission beforehand and my lawyer said it was okay but not to make it a frequent or prolonged occurrence. For that night, it was fine. I assured the girls that they could come home at any time if they wanted by just giving me a call. As I drove away, I noticed my wife coming out of the house, heading toward my mother-in-law, who waved me off. I couldn't hear their conversation, but my wife said something to my mother-in-law, who seemed puzzled. Then my mother-in-law gave her a stern look. I thought, oh. My wife looked at me with tears in her eyes and also waved, and I drove off. I had left food in the oven and everything timed to be ready and warm for when the other betrayed spouse, whom we'll call Amelia, showed up. Eventually, she arrived, but without her toddler. I inquired about her child and she explained that her in-laws and the child's father wanted to spend Christmas with him, just as I had arranged through our lawyer. I thought it was a good arrangement. Amelia was dressed nicely, wearing a pretty dress, leggings, fluffy boots, and a wig that looked quite nice. We enjoyed dinner together and had conversations about our past, getting to know each other better. After dinner, we settled on the couch to watch a movie and continued discussing various topics, including our current challenges, which sometimes led to tears. As we drank a bottle of wine, our conversation became more light-hearted and we shared jokes. After 2 bottles, the jokes subsided and our conversation took a more intimate turn. In essence, we discussed our preferences, desires, and other intimate matters. Surprisingly, we discovered that we had similar inclinations. She mentioned that my wife was fortunate and also messed up, to which I replied, so did your husband. Some of you suggested that I should compliment her beauty during our last encounter, but I thought it was inappropriate at the time. However, this time, I did express my admiration. I told her, you can actually take that wig off if you prefer. She took it off and responded with a grateful thank you. We continued discussing various topics and eventually started watching a movie while cuddling. Keep in mind that we were both quite intoxicated. When my wife and I used to cuddle, she enjoyed it when I gently massaged her breasts, not in a crude manner, but more like a soothing massage. I realized that I had unconsciously started doing it to Amelia as well. When she mentioned, "That feels good," I panicked and immediately stopped, apologizing for my actions. She reassured me that it was fine and asked if I should continue because it felt nice and relaxing. I agreed, and we continued for a few minutes. I must admit I enjoyed it too, and she noticed, hugging me tighter. She asked if I wanted her to stop, and I confessed that I liked it as well. So we continued for a while before it escalated to a point that I cannot share here. Skipping ahead, we explored various rooms in the house, ending up in bed where we cuddled, shed some tears, and eventually fell asleep. The next morning, we had breakfast and got ready for the day. I noticed she had brought fresh clothes with her and asked if she had planned for this. She chuckled and said, "No, a girl always has an extra pair of clothes." As she was leaving, she inquired if I had felt anything the previous night. I admitted that I had. However, we both acknowledged the need to consider our children and ensure that our feelings were genuine. She kissed me on the cheek, thanked me for the wonderful night, and asked me to text her later. I then picked up my girls and they had a good time with their mother, reporting that she was on her best behavior for the most part. **Update***. The girls are doing much better, thanks to their therapist and various activities. As for Amelia and me, we continue to talk almost daily, but we haven't engaged in anything physical since our last encounter. We've met once and agreed that while we don't regret what happened, it was a mistake and shouldn't have occurred. Regarding my wife, she made efforts to communicate with me for a few weeks after Christmas. However, she has now acquired a lawyer, and my lawyer is aware that our meetings will be happening soon. She's come to realize that I'm resolute in my decision, and despite occasional calls and texts from her to change my mind, I've left her on read. Reconciliation is not on the table. Now regarding the affair partner. He has been arrested. I don't have all the details, but it seems there was a confrontation at my wife's workplace where she threatened to call the police and he assaulted her. Co-workers intervened and protected her, leading to his arrest. My wife is pressing charges. While I anticipate he might hire a lawyer for their affair, I haven't received further updates on that front. My mother-in-law shared this information with me, hoping it would encourage me to check on her daughter. She also mentioned that I'm welcome to visit my wife. Don't judge my mother-in-law just yet, as she also expressed understanding if I chose not to visit, adding, he blacked her eye and busted her lip. Karma is a bitch, and this is hers. Since the incident, neither I nor the girls have seen my wife. Unless something extraordinary occurs, you probably won't hear from me again until after our initial meetings with our lawyers. **Update***. Sorry for not updating you since our first lawyer meeting. Things have been hectic. Now, back to Amelia and me. We are still in contact every day, and things are going well. We are getting along better, and it's becoming easier for both of us. Unfortunately, there's some bad news for her. Thankfully, it's not related to her health or her child. However, her cheating husband has disappeared. I'm not surprised by this development. He left shortly after being released on bail for assaulting my wife. It turns out my wife was the last person to have contact with him. My suspicions seem to have been correct. She was planning to press charges, but he threatened to sue her over their affair, claiming she used her position to initiate it. She dropped the charges following this. He decided not to pursue a lawsuit and then left town. No one knows where he's gone, and while I don't entirely believe his parents' claims of ignorance, I don't care much about that at this point. My lawyer presented my demands, and after the aggressive incident involving her affair partner, I insisted on full custody. My lawyer outlined everything I wanted, but her lawyer didn't seem to listen. Her lawyer suggested that for the sake of the children, we should reconcile. My lawyer laughed at that idea and began listing all the issues, recounting what she had done, and adding the problems with her affair partner for good measure. He said, "These are our demands. Accept them, or we'll see you in court." Once again, her lawyer pushed for reconciliation, but my lawyer responded with, "Very well, we will see you in court." 2 weeks later, I received a call from my lawyer. She had agreed to all the terms as long as she got the girls for 2 weekends a month and alternating holidays. Originally, she wanted all the weekends, but my lawyer negotiated against that. I agreed to the terms as she is still the mother of our daughters, and I hope she has learned to prioritize them. After all this, it feels strange to keep referring to her as my wife, but I trust you understand I mean to say soon-to-be ex-wife. Now, you might be wondering how she looked. Honestly, she looked terrible. She appeared almost anorexic, like she had aged 10 years, and I even suspected her hair might be falling out. The irony is that I think a wig wouldn't look good on her, as wig hair looks too full and healthy, which wouldn't match her overall appearance. Despite my lack of love for her, she is still the mother of my daughters, and I don't like seeing her in that condition. I asked my mother-in-law to get her some help. She was reluctant at first, believing it was her daughter's punishment. However, I reminded her that she is still the mother of her granddaughters and needs to be there for them. My mother-in-law eventually agreed, and she is working with her to help her get back on her feet. My wife left me a note asking to meet up with her in person in a public place for one final talk before the divorce. I agreed, and we are scheduled to meet sometime next week. It will be a recorded conversation in a public setting. Although we are still legally married, the end is approaching in the first week of July. Just a few more weeks and it will all be over. Thank you all for your support, and I hope to move on to the next chapter soon. Update. Despite my initial doubts, we've decided to start my oldest daughter on medication. I talked it over with her doctor, therapist, and my soon-to-be ex-wife. We are beginning with the lowest dose until she gets used to it. If she handles the new family situation well, we'll slowly take her off the meds. My youngest is doing okay and gets why we can't live together, even though she wishes we could. She's quite insightful for her age. About the affair partner, he's pretty much vanished. Amelia and I continue to talk every day. Now, onto the part you're likely most interested in. My ex and I met at the park where we used to take our girls. We recorded everything in case she tried anything untoward, but she didn't. Most of our conversation revolved around the girls, and she agreed that it's best for them to stay with me full-time during our separation. She admitted that she isn't in the right mindset to be a mom at the moment and acknowledged that she has failed as a mother. I won't go into detail about that part, as it was primarily focused on the well-being of our daughters. Towards the end of our meeting, as I was preparing to leave, she asked if we could halt the divorce, undergo counseling, and give our relationship another try. I firmly declined. I reminded her of everything she had said and done to me, everything she had allowed her affair partner to say and do to me, and how she must have known about his actions towards his wife and child. I pointed out everything she had put our girls through and asked her if she truly believed she deserved a second chance. She shook her head and said, "No, I don't." At that point, I felt a surge of emotion and let it out. I talked about how much I had loved her, how I had given up my career for her and our girls, and how I had done everything for her. She started crying, and I continued speaking, expressing that sorry no longer held any weight in the situation. Everything she did to our girls weighed heavily on my mind. I confronted her, asking if she truly believed she deserved a second chance. She responded by shaking her head and uttering, "No, I don't." This marked the first time I felt truly passionate about our conversation, and I couldn't hold back. I began pouring out my emotions, expressing my deep love for her, reminding her of the career I had sacrificed for her and our daughters, and recounting all the ways I had supported her. Naturally, she started crying. I continued talking passionately, but eventually, I decided to halt my emotional outburst. She kept apologizing, but my response remained unwavering: "Sorry doesn't mean anything anymore." I then inquired about her mindset when she initiated this turmoil. I recalled someone sharing a YouTube video discussing my situation, and I noticed that many comments aligned with what she was about to reveal. She suddenly confessed, "I wanted to be the one at home." Her words left me bewildered, but she continued to explain herself. She clarified that she never intended to take over her dad's business. Instead, she wanted me to do it. Her true desire was to be a mother and a wife, not to work long hours at the business. Her revelations kept flowing. She wished for me to step in and manage the business, allowing her to be a homemaker, caring for our girls, preparing meals, and playing with them. She expressed a strong aversion to being the primary breadwinner or a business owner. She spoke passionately about these desires for a good 30 minutes, and by the time she finished, she looked utterly drained. I probed further, questioning why she had made me quit my job and claimed she wanted to run the business. She responded, "I wanted you to express your willingness to do it." I countered, highlighting my lack of experience in that field and how it would have been wrong for me to agree to run her dad's business. She admitted that she had wanted me to vocalize it because she was reluctant to acknowledge her aspiration to be a stay-at-home wife. At this point, my anger reached a boiling point, and I berated her for allowing her pride to create such a destructive situation. My frustration remained intense. I questioned how her desire to be a homemaker related to the affair. She explained that during the pandemic, especially towards the end, she worked long hours, and she became jealous and resentful of me being at home with our daughters. Somehow, her affair partner sensed her vulnerability, possibly from seeing her at work. He began poisoning her mind with negative comments about me and insinuated that if I were a real man, she could stay at home. This led to the affair, and she did attempt to end it once. However, he intervened, resuming his toxic remarks about me, which fueled her anger and envy, causing her to fall back into the affair. It became a recurring pattern. She acknowledged that effective communication from the beginning could have prevented all this. She expressed a desire to have her family back and return to a sense of normalcy. Devastated and furious, I abruptly left the conversation. Since then, anger has consumed my heart, and I'm tired of being upset because of her. In addition, I forgot to mention a shocking revelation that emerged late last year. My ex was pregnant with her affair partner's child, but she decided to have a termination. My mother-in-law noticed her unusual behavior and suspected she was faking it for attention, but it turned out she was indeed pregnant. This added another layer of turmoil to her already tumultuous life. I apologize for including this detail at the end, it slipped my mind during the initial account. So there you have it.